out there in the world that students have produced. So your self-knowledge is basically your personal property. You might turn it into some advice to the world, but you then become a guru and are liberated. But for most of us, it's personal.
Yeah, there's knowledge of the self, but there's also my knowledge of others. So in working in groups, as anybody gets to know each other, they know their weaknesses and strengths. So that's quite public knowledge as well in terms of, oh, we get someone to do that, they're really good. And if you guys support that person over there, because we know that they're a bit weak on that, and they're still learning that stuff. So it's turning that, taking that personal.
Wait a minute. Knowledge of other people, yes, is another important kind of constructible knowledge, but that doesn't make it public knowledge. Because your social intelligence, if you will, is not out there for other people to take up. And you could be you could be a social theorist or a guru and translate it into publishable knowledge. You could be Fritz Perls and create a whole kind of system of concept. So I think there is an important distinction between the personal knowledge, which is yours. You may gain it through social interaction. Obviously, you're not going to become socially intelligent if you don't ever associate with anybody. But creating public knowledge is something else again. And again, I think this distinguishes the role of knowledge building from many kinds of inquiry approaches and constructivists. In that the idea is that the students are working together to produce knowledge that is of value to their community. Its main value, at least at the school level, is not going to be practical. It's mainly going to be of value in pursuing yet further knowledge. But that's what a lot of scientific knowledge and so on is primarily good for, is further knowledge of it. But it is out there. And what's the matter?
Well, I was just, talking about this dimension of agency, to, both the sense of I could advance this knowledge seems to me to have a lot of the social dynamics you're talking about. You've got to know the group. You've got to be really sensitive to Carl's so shy. If I, really go at his theory, he might not come back and talk. But I mean, I think that kind of the lay of the land and the social dynamics are really essential to knowledge building. So I think that kind of empathy, the sense of, people even talk about exploratory ideas, you just can't do it without having an empathetic sense of the dimensions that are required for an explanation. So we had a similar dilemma trying to figure out why use the term knowledge building when knowledge creation exists? Like, why didn't we just call it knowledge creation? And so we really struggled with this article, like really hard to write about 2 hills to climb. Like in education, what it takes to create knowledge is different than when you're in a knowledge creating organization. Everybody's there because they're specialized in a particular area. But in education, you have this immense diversity out of which you've got to negotiate quite different structures. So the concept of knowledge building then was an effort to talk about how you build the knowledge that creates these kind of artifacts. So I guess what my kind of frown and dilemma, what I'm not quite sure if you're saying, are you saying that the knowledge is talking about, the social knowledge is not knowledge building?
Or not public knowledge.
It's not, yeah.
And so I would distinguish between community knowledge, which often retains that knowing about those about you, social stuff, which can be different from public knowledge. That's the knowledge that you can say take beyond community and be used by others.
Right. See, there's already a really good word for development of personal knowledge. It's called learning. And there's social learning, there's personal learning.
So for those who are, say, into community development, as a topic in itself, there's a lot to be learned, and that's very social learning. And then you'd hope that becomes, well, people write books about it, so that becomes sort of in the public domain as knowledge there that others can then take that up and take it back into their own communities. So it's still very social, but it's reached, I suppose it's risen above the point at which it's knowledge that's not just important for one community to use, but used by many. But seeing where those things sort of shift out, one of my questions from this morning is to what extent you need to be involved in the knowledge construction that in your local level, and in order to understand that knowledge that's right out there, that's people write about in their books and share at that level. How easy is it for children to see knowledge that's public and understand the importance of that knowledge if they haven't been involved in constructing it? It's sort of like a transfer problem.
But you know, it's interesting because this notion that we can come up with about feeling one, the knowledge creating culture. Like, so you see that knowledge out there, and you actually see yourself as part of the community of people who advance the world's knowledge. And like we see little signs of it with young kids, like one student wrote, Karen, they were studying heredity, genetics, and Karen worked on Mendel's fault. So it was very much seen that my peer, Mendel worked on Karen's fault.
Mendel worked on Karen.
Mendel worked on Karen's fault, yeah.
They may have done it before.
Yeah, and so it was pretty cool to see, you know, like the sorrow problem and Mendel helped a little bit back way.
200 years, 100 and something odd years.
Yeah. So anyhow, this notion of understanding some of the social dynamics and the building dynamics that you can't, I don't think, be a very good knowledge builder without that social knowledge.
Yeah.
But it is true that it's different from the creation of the public knowledge.
I can see this like in our group, like particularly this year, and also last year as well. So in the research group that we have, so we always talk about how to actually create ideas, practical ideas, and then work in the classrooms. But of course, there's a lot of social dynamics going on as well, right? So yeah, but we clearly see, particularly for this year with the meetings, I could see all these ideas coming up, and then someone from the group actually try to develop it further, and other people provide examples. I could, as if I could see something concrete in something out there that people were doing work. I don't know whether you, all recorded, so we can check, go back to the tape, and then you will know. It's very clear that in a community, well, we have 6 people this year, 7 people this year, and really, those are the ideas of idea improvement that is happening in a teacher community. And I see those social dynamics as well. But those are not that we wanted to build, but it's happening as well.
I think a lot of the scaffolding we do is around the social elements to get so they can get to the point of knowledge building.
Yeah.
So it's sort of necessary, but maybe not sufficient. But if you don't attend to it, then
that's probably it's probably a self-criticism as much as anything. But sometimes we almost get hung up on the pure knowledge building without really very actively considering that sort of social dimension. And
That happened in our first year.
If you don't, I think you're doomed. And I don't know whether the environment, at times I think Knowledge Forum could there's something which may be able to be designed which facilitates that sort of more explicit social dimension.
I would expect it to emerge out of trying to support the idea of students having a particular mindset. So how do they arrive at that mindset? Generally, everybody in the group's got to be mutually supportive, or there's got to be enough in there to be mutually supportive of developing that mindset that others who might have certainly involved. Great examples of a teacher teaching about women going to the Antarctic, but there was after all that learning and assessing it, there was a group of children in the class who were determined that women had never been to the Antarctic and didn't have a role down there. That was Graham Nuttall's research in Canterbury. So the mindset of who can do what in the class is quite important to where those messages come from, between students who work. Say, oh no, we can do this.
There probably could be some ways to enhance knowledge forums so that it provided more support for the kind of social cohesion.
Yeah. Well, in some ways, in the online environment, it's even more urgent because we haven't got the face-to-face action interaction, which I think, Karen, were you describing, or someone was describing, where you got 2 or 3 kids chatting away about things side by side at a computer. We've generally got being, and in actual fact, I know Darren behind you, Marlene, and myself, we actually do a sort of a hybrid type of thing. We use Google Community, the Google Plus community, for more of that social chit chat. Well, Darren, do you want to sort of?
You're really articulating my observations, aren't you? Nice to articulate them, but discussions I've had with Kim about online teaching and learning, the importance of community building and the importance of dialogue in that, and easy dialogue. So what I find in the knowledge building, and I love that, fantastic. And, the idea building, what I find with my courses is that the dialogue that I've developed in the past is so important for the kids. It tends to disappear with the idea building. There can be dialogue at the end, but it's not sustained and ongoing, and it's not quick dialogue. That's quite important for kids to develop that sense of community. So I basically use 2 environments in there. I use a sort of what's basically a social media type of thing, which allows that dialogue. And then you've got Knowledge Forum, which is really the place for building ideas and community. And I suppose it's a challenge of sort of how you marry the 2 things, or whether you do it all. I mean, how would you view that in terms of Knowledge Forum? Is it something you would encourage as part of the knowledge building, and that has to be dialoguing as part of that, or is it something that's
because the whole principles of knowledge building, the 12 principles, when you look at it very carefully, they are all idea type of thing. But even the community part is a community development of ideas, right? So there's a lack of actually social side with the model, actually. So you may actually act 13 principle there. highlighting the social part because the social part is not in the principle. That's why when the teachers using it, there always will be ideas all the time. Okay, kids develop ideas. So no matter how you modify knowledge forum, because there's no principle supporting the social development, teachers will still be focusing on their ideas.
Yeah, I have actually been thinking about that because it was meant to be this kind of, you can't have, like, agency, thinking that is a very social issue, but you're right, it's agency, it's epistemic agency, it's a sense of understanding the mind. I'm wondering whether, so just to say, for me, the conflict has been, I've always thought of each of those requiring a social dimension. But you're right, they're not explicit in that dimension. And so whether it's a 13 or each of them needs, one of the things I was trying to redo in the take of what are the extremes common to everything. And the concept of empathy was in there. And also this issue, we played with the idea of putting chat right into knowledge form. And so that there's a kind of back and forth. We can use the imitation of the original, and now you'll see we're even playing with, who's online, and so you can see that. But so what are these different roles is super important and challenging. I remember one girl who had given a powerful knowledge class for several, no, actually, maybe for a year, one year. Make it a little longer. Anyhow, we then looked at the classroom. It was the first time that she really out of competitive school was trying knowledge building for the first time. And we've never seen anything so punishing. I mean, it was really, where did you come up with that from? And haven't you read the book? I mean, it was like the commentary was just wretched. But, and we didn't realize this at the time, one little voice was in there saying, oh, but that's an interesting idea because I never thought of it this way. And that made me think of this. And one girl, it turned out, who came from a knowledge building experience, actually managed to turn the classroom around reasonably productive. She was incredibly generous. I mean, really putting herself out, not advancing her own ideas, reading your note really carefully, figuring out what was strong about it, putting a note on it, linking it to your note. She really worked this space and really did a huge contribution, which wasn't about advancing her ideas. So that was a really interesting phenomenon that wasn't justice to
the loss of annotation, I guess, has probably exacerbated that need for something else for us. I think a lot of that sort of almost social dimension, the empathy dimension, did often manifest itself in the way that the post-its were used. And I know in the Toronto version 6, you've got remarks, which is probably the designer's way of replacing. But that ability to sort of almost for those of you who didn't know, you used to have like a little post-it type note, which you could very quickly respond to notes, and it may be sort of saying, hey Emily, really that's really great work, or where'd you find that? And it was more of that, almost that social dimension which it tended to be used for, and in some ways that's, well, I think we've got version 5 that's gone, and that's
it's actually funny with engineers, like I just dropped out. Of course, I didn't know if I tried to use it.
And we've had to fight with the engineers.
I mentioned to them in Mexico. I actually mentioned to them, I said, oh, you have
I think all of the ones who had used 4.8 here in New Zealand really missed it. really missed it.
Yeah.
So
the engineers keep wanting to put in thumbs up.
We hate that.
And
Well, I do have it in there,
Yeah, I know you're
They
concerned about
will suppress it, but they would never delete it. I mean, these are strong-minded engineers.
It's almost a bit
and
too
it's
sort of
just
backward.
the death of
Yeah.
real idea work to not get the idea that if 200 people like it, that must be a good idea. And only 10 like
It's a
it.
bit lazy, really, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just sort of,
But this whole issue, it's important, but it's actually it's very tricky.
yeah.
Like one of the things that has bothered me about ordinary schooling, as conducted by very humane and supportive teachers, is it's overly personalized. So there's no such thing as an idea. There's your idea. You know, it's always attached to a person. And when an idea is first born, that's fine. But what you want is for it eventually to take on a life of its own.
Mm.
At which point you can attack it without telling the author that they're worthless and should go find another line of work. And you know, I call it hyper-personalization because some personalization, but I think Facebook is a blight on civilization because of the extreme personalization of things. And I don't know, maybe if you ever find anything like knowledge building going on in Facebook, let me know because I haven't seen it, but on the other hand, I don't spend a lot of time looking.
Because in the classroom, you know, parents always want to know what my child is. You know, they see this which fit with mine.
We've got a culture of that very individualized sort of, and that's where you know, that's turning the whole schooling culture around to a more, hey, what have we done?
Counter to that, I mean, that's all true, but on the other side of it is there's a contemporary philosopher who's very well known, but I just can't retrieve his name at the moment. But anyway, he was speaking to the issue of what they call the demarcation problem of, is there a line of demarcation between science and ordinary thinking? And there's some philosophers who say no, there really isn't. And then you've got Karl Popper and a lot of others who say it's, you know, there's such a thing as a method that separates. But his stance on this is that what separates a science from a non-science is solidarity, by which he means if you're a scientist, you feel solidarity with the other people you recognize as scientists. Mm. There are recognized norms that you sort of conform to and honor, and maybe even help reinforce for others. And that's all there is to it.
Wouldn't it be true for religion as well?
Pardon?
Wouldn't that be true for religion as well?
It's certainly true. Probably not necessarily. I mean, you can be a religious believer and not have much fellow feeling for other co-religionists, but by and large, you're certainly right. They're united in that way.
They might be scientists.
And in fact, the discussions now about the head covering rules and so on, I do get into that because on one interpretation, wearing the traditional dress is again an expression of solidarity. It's just standing up for your group, and so it shouldn't be treated as trying to hide your identity, or well, all the other kinds of criticism. So I certainly don't have any conclusion to offer on that issue, but yeah, you're right. And indeed, I don't know how it is here in North America. There's this, to my mind, absolutely crazy belief spread that Christianity is under attack and that they're a beleaguered minority, despite the fact that they're 79% of the population and control probably 90% of the political offices. But it appears that one of the ways to create a sense of solidarity is to convince people that they're under attack as a group. Yeah. And so it's just it's a strategy that's being played out regardless of the facts. It just works.
Just to follow up on the issue of parents, there's been a really constant concern in the schools we work with about a very direct statement. If parents are in all of the, how many notes did my child enter, looking at the notes, what principle is that? Brought the parents in to explain what they were doing. Somehow invited the parents as members of the community to also build their knowledge. And what was really interesting was parents as knowledge builders along with their students. So really thinking that they were dealing with, not thinking they were dealing with issues that they found interesting and were themselves trying to build knowledge. It's a really powerful story. I don't know how it's did it, but the students feeling that they are actually the parents were a resource who had more knowledge about lots of things, but also had stuff to learn along with them, turned into something really powerful. So it was just your mentioning of parents and thinking, probably we have such a classic framework for the engagement of parents, and they're so concerned about assessment. But somebody who turned it around and said, powerful social resource for building knowledge might be the parents, and managed to actually get a convincing case study on it. Interesting.
Carl, I was interested in your differentiation between the deliberative mode and design mode thinking. You said the deliberative mode of thinking had been around for hundreds of years in education. And my experience would be that in a lot of schools, the deliberative mode is actually quite advanced and quite innovative. That a lot of what happens in schools is pure filling us up with known facts without any thinking. So, my question is, if that's kind of the starting place that a lot of schools are at, it's a really big jump, isn't it, to the knowledge building. But how? To me, it just seems a huge leap. And so how do you avoid the name being attached to something that's only really a very little step away from where I'm currently at?
Yeah, I don't know. Yes, it probably is a bigger leap if they aren't doing deliberative thinking either. And you're certainly right that there's a whole old style breed of teaching that isn't deliberative and is not designed either. But I think what's been recognized as quality education from way back, starting with the